Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for the new moon in Leo, which happens to be a partial solar eclipse. And it's going to be at 18 degrees of Leo, which is pretty cool because if you think about it, 18 is the year that we're in, 2018. And I think to the tarot card that is number 18, which one is that? The moon card. And the moon card, I think it gets a bad rap actually because it can talk about creativity and it can even talk about spirituality, meditation, the things that we associate with yin types of activities, inner activities, intuition, clairvoyance, yada, yada. But what else does it talk about? Addiction, insanity, delusion, illusion, deception. And I think these are themes for 2018, to be honest with you. So in a way, it's right on time that we should have this solar eclipse. But this is a solar eclipse, so we're talking about new moon energy. The moon card is like a full moon type of a vibe. So this is about new beginnings, but on steroids, right? However, we are in the midst of a Mercury retrograde in Leo as well at the time of this solar eclipse. We're also experiencing a Mars retrograde that lasts until August 27th when it goes direct in Capricorn. But at this particular point in time, Mars will be at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So it will actually be forming an opposition with Uranus, which is at an early degree of Taurus. And the funny thing about Uranus is that at this point, it has just gone retrograde itself a week earlier. Or no, actually like less than a week earlier than that. So that's like kind of crazy too, because Uranus direct is quite unpredictable. So when it's retrograding, hold on to your hats. And we're talking about a square between Mars and Uranus. And Mars is retrograding, Uranus is retrograding. So is this going to be an old battle that has new surprises? When you think about even just world events, it seems like we keep reliving things. Things keep being brought back into the forefront. And this is, I think, how all of existence is. We go from life to life to life. And we keep having the same battles, sometimes with the same people, until we wake up, until we really see what's happening here. And so even though this is a new moon, there's this energy that is like about excess at this time that has to be really reined in. And it may feel like a full moon to some people in that regard, because with Mars square Uranus, it's very revolutionary energy, rebellious, and both of these planets are retrograding, so they're not acting the way they normally act. And likewise, the frustration factor may be even greater because not only because it forms a square, this particular aspect, but because you're dealing with Uranus wanting that sense of progress, and Mars being angry, or at the very least antsy. And we're talking about this blockage, this square, this frustration. The energy has to be channeled somehow. And for people that are just kind of running on emotion, they can get very, how can I put it, rash, emotional, because even with all of this Leo energy, we have the Sun, Moon, and Mercury in Leo. That in and of itself is very passionate, and because it's fire energy, it's coming from the ego, okay? So with this Mars square Uranus, people may be acting out of their ego. And by the way, we have Jupiter having gone direct in July in Scorpio and aspecting Sun, Moon, and Mercury. So squares for all of those aspects, those are challenging angles, squares. And so they create this sense of tension. They create a sense of frustration. Or when they're making contact with Jupiter, there's a sense of exaggeration. So people's egos can get blown out of proportion simply by all these planets being in Leo, but also added to that, the square to Jupiter, the contact that it's making to Jupiter, where it's like grandiose. And we see that the news media seems designed to manipulate us. I think we're waking up to that. I was thinking that this was a relatively recent phenomenon, and now I'm like going back and I'm seeing all these times when this has happened. And even before I was born, I was watching Oswald get shot by Jack Ruby. And this was a couple years before I was even born. And seeing Bob Schieffer and Dan Rather reporting for CBS, even back then, during this particular world-changing event, was quite startling, to say the least. Now, these things that happen, giving the exact address of where, the exact time of when Oswald was going to be frog-marched away. So the point is that setting up conditions for people to do what they're going to do. So we have to do our part and keep a level head and not run away with our imaginations or allow our emotions to get manipulated during this time or during any time, because it's a constant. It doesn't have to rely on a specific astrological configuration for that to occur, that's for sure. But I'm just bringing it up because this is supposed to be a new moon, and there's a lot going on with these squares that can really lead to people having delusions of grandeur and then acting on them, which is not a good thing, not a good combination. But let's look at the positive side of things, because there's a lot to be happy about, even though I know that there are some people who think probably that an eclipse will eclipse a Mercury retrograde or a Mars retrograde. I mean, we shall see, and I'm sure there will be new beginnings for all of us. I just think that it's possible that they may experience a delay, that we may have to still do something or wait for something, that we might not be able to take action at a certain time that we expect to, and that we have to be patient, because especially with the Mars retrograde, it can feel like you're fighting against something that you want to accomplish and that you're being slowed down. And some people, what they do is they double down and they try to really force something, and maybe they promote something, they try to push something through, and it doesn't have the kind of momentum that they had hoped for. So it all depends on you and how you feel about your particular life. And so I'm not going to make any pronouncements in that area, but I'm just thinking out loud here that it may be something that we still have to kind of review and be very vigilant about. And if you think about it, Leo ruling the 5th house is dealing with creativity. So coming up with amazing ideas in August is never going to be out of style. And you may have them in droves because the 5th house can be about love, of course, falling in love and things like that. So it could be romantic in nature, but it can be creative projects. And so that can be something that you go back to, especially if you've had a creative project that got derailed somehow. You may find new inspiration. And likewise, you may have new ideas. And this can even launch a business at some point, too. This house can be the business that you own. And of course, that's a creative enterprise in itself as well. And I think that with all of this Leo energy, as I said, not only the sun and moon, but Mercury as well. And even you could say Venus being in Libra and Mars in Aquarius. These are the core elements here. We're talking about all masculine energy. And masculine energy is energy that is yang, directed outwards, okay? So this is a time of action. This is a time. Now, whether or not it's going to occur in the month of, on a massive scale for you in the month of August, who knows? But at least this sense of forward momentum taking hold, okay? And the thing about it is the independence that these signs, for the most part, represent. I'm excluding Libra because Libra tends to enjoy working in partnership, but Libra is a masculine sign. And I always look at the masculine element not only as active versus passive, so kind of doing rather than being, but also doing in an outer way, in a more universal way. So if we were talking about a lot of planets in Scorpio or something like that, like last November when Jupiter went into Scorpio and we had the sun in Scorpio and the moon, like at the time of the new moon in Scorpio or what have you. That kind of energy is more contemplative, is more doing the inner work, doing shadow work or something like that. Now we're talking about your ego, your healthy ego. Own your ego. Own your individuality. Don't act like you are being self-centered if you have dreams for yourself that other people don't necessarily share. You can inspire others through your own path and your individuality. Actually, a lot of what is happening on YouTube is that people are deciding that they want to shine their light, and other people are watching them and being inspired by that. Maybe they don't even do what they do, but they still can sense that these people on YouTube or other places online are sticking their necks out, that they're sharing who they are, that they are showing that we don't have to all be the same. The media, the social conditioning that exists in the public school system, all of these entities, the government, tries to get us to be the same, tries to get us to march in lockstep to what they want. And we're really starting to break free from that dream, that conditioning, that programming. And that could be what is happening. And you might be getting these people who are waking up. I'm going to cringe in a second, becoming woke. That makes me cringe, but I mean, that is the case of being woke, and they don't know what to do with themselves because they realize they've been lied to, but they can't. It's like you have to still maintain a sense of calm and a sense of being able to be strategic. Maybe that's my Mars and Capricorn coming out here. but you can't allow yourself to be emotionally manipulated. And going back to that Mars square Uranus, which we've had, this is not the first month that we're having this, but this is why you're seeing so much going on with the protests and stuff like this, where people feel this sense, or just even on an individualistic level, where people are kind of rebelling against stuff that they would normally accept. These are fixed signs, too, that we're dealing with. We're dealing with Uranus, which is, we're dealing with Taurus. Now, this is interesting, too, because Uranus rules Aquarius and Mars is in Aquarius. So there's a definite Uranian situation going on here. And this is something that, these are both fixed signs, Aquarius and Taurus. So there can be stubbornness that comes from people's belief in the way that they are perceiving things. Because even Mercury is in Leo, and Leo is a fixed sign too. So we've got all this fixed energy. That does not allow for the flexibility of altering your point of view. And so, again, the ego, do not allow the ego to create these entrenched ideas to the point where you would be willing to act on something in a very, uncentered kind of a way that could, an unhinged kind of a way that could lead to something happening to you that you don't want to happen. And the other thing, too, that I've been, I was watching some astrologers talking about the North Node or the South Node figuring into this. Now, looking at my ephemeris, I see that the South Node at this time is going to be at 5 degrees of Aquarius. Okay, so, and I believe I said 0 degrees is what Mars is at. So it's got an orb of 5 degrees. I didn't know that was close enough to be in there. I thought it was only 2 degrees or less. But if we include the South Node in all of this, this is talking about our karmic past. And that could indicate that we are experiencing something that is part of our evolutionary journey as human beings. And I will not call people humans. I will always say human beings. I don't know why they're erasing the word being. Being is important because then, at least for me, being always reminds me that I am a consciousness, ultimately. Not just a physical human, but having beingness. Okay, so that's where my head is at when it comes to that. So this may be part of our unfoldment as our group karma, if you will. And don't be afraid of the word karma, because if you look at it as destiny, we chose to be here at this time. Well, that's my feeling. So did the Chinese say, or was it, Confucius? Did Confucius say, may you live in interesting times? Whoever said that. I don't know why they said that. Maybe because it makes life more interesting or exciting. But, this is something that can be very revolutionary. And I'm not talking about this specific date. I'm talking about an unfoldment. Maybe this is like a very important turning point, or just one signpost in our unfoldment process, our ascension, if you will, too, on all levels of being. So I want to say one last thing before I go, and that's that Leo really represents embracing your inner child and being in touch with that which makes you a creative being. Don't create drama and think that you are living a passionate life. Fire signs are passionate, but when they are not creating good things, productive things, they tend to create drama. They tend to cause problems. They tend to go and, stir up the pot, but not for a good cause. So don't do that. And don't allow anyone to manipulate you into doing that so that they can push their agenda either. The main message that I want to get across here with the Leo and the Aquarius energy is independence and autonomy. I guess that might be the same thing, right? But acting as a free agent, but as an independent agent. Okay, you guys. Well, I hope that you have an awesome new moon in Leo, and take care. Bye.